we begin chapter 6. In the previous chapter, we spoke about the fact that God's two divine attributes of divine kindness and divine power of restraint have both an infinite capability and quality. So when God is restraining, holding back, concealing through contraction of his infinite light, that we should not perceive it, it could be of an infinite quality, and therefore it would infinitely hold back the divine light, that it would be almost impossible for us to find it in this world through creation, through the act of creator within creation. If it were not, as we explained, as the sages say, if he did not give together with that the quality of compassion. Compassion meaning that there's a light of God that imbues this world constantly, consistently, in a manner that we are capable of seeing the light of God, having a connection to it. And that was specifically, the compassion is expressed through actually the righteous people, tzaddikim. When we speak about righteous here, we mean truly righteous, not people that are just righteous in din, in judgment, but righteous meaning that they have actually no whim and desire of their own. They're completely transparent to their divine source, completely connected, and therefore through them we're able to see a light of God in the world. Otherwise it would be very difficult for us on our own. We would get trapped. And today we're going to get a little more of an awareness of how we would get trapped. How would get trapped? So the Alter Rebbe explains. The name Elohim, which is the name that indicates Gevurah, the attribute of Gevurah, this power of restraint, this power of concealment, tzimtzum, contraction of the divine light, right, has a numerical value of 86, which equals hateva, which means nature. It is the name of God, the power of God, that conceals the life force of God, that we do not see how it is that we're being animated, bringing into existence by the light of God. It conceals that light. And it has, as we will learn a bit later, a double power to it. The concealment allows us to exist. Otherwise, we would be like a ray of light within the sun. We'd be completely nullified. We would not have any sense of self. So the world as it appears, as it exists, without the awareness of the constant renewal of God's divine energy that is creating us something from nothing at all times, not just, God created the world, 5,700 odd years ago and now left it on its own accord. No, he's constantly renewing creation. The fact that it feels like it's been permanently programmed, that it's the laws of nature that are independent of any supernatural influence. That is the sense that we have. I remember from chapter 2, as we explained earlier, the mug that I'm holding in my hand right now, right? To fashion this mug, after you fashion it, I place it. It's independent of me. I don't control it. I mean, I can pick it up and control it, move it, but every moment it's under my influence. It doesn't exist because I'm creating it at every moment, because we can only make something from something. God makes something from nothing, not even a mustard seed. Absolute nothingness. So the fact that what I am sensing is that this is programmed already to kind of exist on its own, and that there is no supernatural influence. This is the guise, this is the power of Shem Elokim, again, which is the numeric value of 86, which is Hateva, nature. So what is nature? Nature, Chassidus explains to us, the word Teva means entrenched and submerged. Meaning, just like something's entrenched in water, or submerged in water, right? And submerged in water. What does it mean that it's submerged in water? Is it there? It's there, but you don't see it. It's submerged. You don't see it. Entrenched means it's consistent. Always this way. So it's programmed. Sunrise, sunset. This is the way of the world. That's what nature is. This comes from the name of God, Elohim, that power of contraction of Tzimtzum, that conceals, concealing meaning that it is submerged, that we don't see it. What don't you see? The power of God, of constant renewal. That God is constantly renewing us, right? And that's what we brought up earlier in chapter 4, that this is, from the metaphor, that the sun has a shield. Now, I don't know if it's the ozone layer, and let's not go there, because then it'll get political. But the sun has a shield, whatever that shield is. And that's a metaphor. The sun is life-giving. The shield protects us that it's not too strong, the sun. That's a metaphor for the name Havaya, that is the life-giving force of God, that God is constantly creating. As the word Havaya means to bring into being constantly. That's what the actual word means. It is a tetragrammaton, is the name of God that is, again, bringing from nothingness into something. But then that's being shielded, that's being covered, that's being submerged in a manner that we don't get nullified. Nullified meaning because that light would be too strong, because we would be completely absorbed in that light. So the Gevurah, this power of concealment, Tzimtzum, then, so one second. So what we have over here, before we conclude this idea, what we have over here then is this power is in order that we should not be nullified by this light of God. Now the question is, how does this power, is this like two powers working against each other? Because when you take the metaphor of the sun and the shield, they're two different entities. Two different entities. It's the sun, and then the shield, whatever that shield is, right? Ozone layer, or whatever you want to call it. You know, it's a metaphor, so for the sake of the metaphor, call it the ozone layer, right? That protects us from the sun, and it shields us. So likewise, Gevurah, the Tzimtzum. So the Alter Rebbe says, well, that's a mistake. No. They're not two different powers, two different entities. Really, Gevurah and Tzimtzum is an aspect of Chesed, of the power of creation, of God creating something from nothing. Actually, Gevurah is included in Chesed. They're not two different, in a sense, they're not two different powers. They are mutually included in each other. What does that mean? Mutually included with each other. And the truth is, that's the end of today's class, and the Alter Rebbe is going to really more explain that in tomorrow's class, but just to give a little concept here. In non-holy place, Every entity wants to be its own value and importance. Everything wants its space, right? Like in the physical world, everything wants to be. And another thing is kind of competing with its space, right? Don't move into my space, right? So this mug over here does want something, to displace it, take its space, because it wants to be. Not that it has a will, but in the concept of the spirit, of the vitality of the created thing. So there's not mutual inclusion as a result. In holiness, though, there's mutual inclusion. Which, by the way, just incidentally, the concept of inclusion is a very popular and current concept. And where it comes from, the concept of it is a very appropriate and holy thing, meaning that there's space for another. In other words, you don't see the other thing as a contradiction. The truth is, when you think about Chesed and Gevurah, they are complete opposites. Chesed is about just giving, indiscriminate giving. Gevurah is about, hey, don't give indiscriminately. You give very discriminate, in a discriminating fashion, so much so that maybe you discriminate to such a degree that you don't give. You say no to your child, before dinner that they want the ice cream. And that's appropriate, right? But where do we see the power that it comes from a holy place is when they're mutually inclusive, meaning that they're working together as one entity, not one against the other, right? So you could say from the metaphor of the sun, you might say from the metaphor of the sun that from the metaphor of the sun, you might say that, there's the sun, there's the shield, whatever that shield is, and they're two separate entities, and they're not necessarily working together. There isn't necessarily mutual inclusion, because they're two separate entities. Well, in the divine, ultimately, Chesed and Gevurah are really one and the same thing, and that's something we're going to get into tomorrow. I don't want to get into the details of tomorrow, but the mutually inclusion, I'll give an analogy today that can bring this idea together, and that they're really one entity working together. Tomorrow we're going to, again, get the lowdown and explaining it in Chabad, in intelligence. But a metaphor. A parent wants to teach their child to walk. Now, the fact that the parent wants to teach the child to walk, mother or father, right? That's an act of loving kindness. That's an act of loving kindness. However, in order for the child to be able to walk, the parent has to, the mother or father, have to conceal themselves from the child. They have to put the child out of their arms, put them on the ground, and not just put them on the ground, remove themselves. Because as long as they're close, as long as they're holding their hand or holding them, they're not going to learn how to walk, right? So the Gevurah, the removal, the distance that has been created by the parent, what motivated that? Pure love, chesed, kindness. It's mutually inclusive. Even though it's not revealed kindness, it's not revealed love. Actually, the child even might start to cry because they feel that the parent has removed themselves. But indeed, what is it? It's motivated by the act of kindness, and it is indeed an act of kindness to remove yourself. That's mutual inclusion of the two attributes that they come together, working together as one. And this is the idea over here of Shem Havaya, God's power of light, of giving life, that would give life in such a manner that we would be absorbed in our source. And then working together with that is Shem Elokim, which is now submerging that light, concealing the light, in order that I could be I could be separate, feel my separateness. That is ultimately an act of loving kindness. And those are the two attributes coming together as one. Again, more on that. It's like kind of the middle of the thought, and we'll continue with that thought tomorrow. One of the takeaways, at least from this, is how we can, in our lives, find a way and a means that things that are seemingly contrary to each other, right, that are different modes of behavior, that can be mutually inclusive because they're really coming with one intent, with one act of a loving kindness, like the example of the parent with the child. And that would be an important takeaway on a human level, shall we say. But here, remember, our quest over here is to understand the power of Creator within creation. So what that means to say, and actually to bring it in other terms, we might experience things in life that seem to be, my Father in heaven has removed himself from me. He's removed himself from me. But if we know that that removal, like the parent from the child, is really motivated, and not just motivated, but is really an expression of loving kindness, as it really is by the parent, that removal is an expression of loving kindness, but it doesn't appear that way. It's motivated by that, but indeed, that's what it ultimately is. The expression is removal, concealment, hiding yourself. When we know that, then when we get something that appears to be very stringent, harsh, from on high, we think about this, and we'll know that it's mutually inclusive. Shem Havai, Shem Elokim. Chesed is motivating the Gevurah, and it's really in order that I could get to a new dimension in my life. That's actually what we spoke about our class last night, which, by the way, I just want to mention that I don't know what happened, but I got knocked out of the Zoom. I couldn't get back in for about 5 minutes or so, and then only 3 people left. I have no idea, never had that happen before in that manner. My apologies. So that's what we spoke about in the class. And, if we look at history, Jewish history, as we spoke about yesterday, so there's a deeper understanding of what the concepts we spoke about of as we move closer to Mashiach. So that's today. So, do we have any questions? As our format is, first to go to questions with 2 question marks on Facebook or Instagram. Please put 2 question marks first so I know that it's a question. And then we'll also take questions from Clubhouse. If anybody has. I don't see. Okay, I don't see questions. Look at this. It's such a difficult topic, and everybody's clear, I hope. Or totally confused. On Instagram. Don't see any question. All right. So, Marcy. Please share with us, Marcy.
So I haven't. I'm about to know now.
Go ahead.
I don't know yet, but I'm about to know that the partnership of Chessed and Gevurah is like a marriage where the sum is greater than, where the total is greater than the sum of the parts.
Oh, very
where
good.
together they produce something that could stand on its own separately, but is better together.
Very good. Excellent. Yes. Um, yeah, and the reason for that is because they come from a higher source, so therefore they can be mutually inclusive um, as a result. Yeah, very good. Excellent, thank you. I see a couple questions over here. Marla, where are the vessels within our body? Well, vessels in the body would be considered like limbs of the body as opposed to the soul, which is the light of the body. Right, so the limbs are the vessels of the body. So your eye is a vessel for the light of the soul that enclosed in it that gives it the capacity to see. Your ear is a vessel to allow the light of the soul to be contracted in a manner that will give the power in the ear to hear. Lara, will Mashiach's arrival change Tzimtzum? Yes, Tzimtzum will be gone, and then the light of God will be revealed. Yes, absolutely. Davida, didn't Abraham represent Chesed, Yitzchak represent Gevurah, and Yaakov represent Tiferes? Yes, they did. Absolutely correct. They were embodiment of the one. That doesn't mean they didn't embody the other component. It's a very good question, Davida, or at least a statement. So Abraham, yes, he embodied divine kindness. His son Yitzchak was Gevurah. When does God say that I know now that you are a true servant of God and God-fearing? It's when Abraham did the opposite of what his nature was. His nature was loving kindness, and he brought his son, his only son, as an offering on the altar. That was a testament that he went against his nature to serve God, and therefore was a true servant of Hashem. So that's being able to take the opposite and to incorporate it and to make it one whole. Absolutely. John, when God overflowed the light of the vessels in Egypt during the 10 miracles, did the affect free will in the Hebrews? I don't know. Did it affect? I mean, I don't know. Good question. Not certain. Okay, let me get to some I know now. Oh, I see Eliana. Eliana, give me just a moment, please. I just want to express. David, I know now that being restrictive can also be from Chesed, but look more like a Gevurah, depending on our intentions. Hashem restricts himself to protect us so we could be better receivers. Thank you. Very good. Anna, I know now that restraint, Gevurah, in the creation is motivated by Chesed. Excellent. Excellent. I know now that a child of God, a child when they are younger, who wasn't truly here and present, that I would not have finally come to the realization and knowledge I now have. If I had not been left to wander on my own and find the knowledge myself. Your doubting mind left you for a fascinating journey discovering God. Okay, wonderful. Eugenia, I know now that two attributes of Chesed and Gevurah are not contradictory but mutually inclusive because they both come from the higher source. Both ultimately represent Hashem's kindness, allowing us to connect to Hashem as an exercise of free will. Okay, excellent. Very good. Eliana, please share with us.
I just wanted to, good morning, by the way. Just wanted to kind of touch on what Marcy was saying and, add on to what you were saying as well. But with regards to Abraham, he was married to Sarah, who's a representation of Gevurah. And so there's that perfect marriage, so to speak, right there. And then we also see at the Akedah when, according to the Midrash, when Isaac was offered up, Sarah heard about it and she died at that moment. So it's at the same time where Abraham basically became that perfect balance where he, overcame that his own Gevurah, and he balanced that out, that Sarah was no longer needed to be his Gevurah. So she was able to pass on at 127 years.
Very good. Thank you. Very nice. Excellent. Okay. So Lara says, I know now that all input that goes into our own vessel must be filtered and kept clean. Very good. Excellent. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. A reminder to everybody that today, 12:45, giving a class of Jewish ethics, Pirkei Avot. Please come and join. And what else? For the ladies, my wife gives a class tonight, 7:30. If you'd like to find out more about that, please private message me with your email so we can keep you posted. Further, just a request for everybody to please please go to YouTube and subscribe to Tanya Rabbi. That would be greatly appreciated. Okay. Deborah, is there a place that I can visit online where I can ask questions unrelated to this class's topic? I don't know. Maybe Chabad.org. I'm not certain how that works. If it's like, I think it's based on whatever is being posted, and based on that, I think so. I'm not clear. Okay. All right, folks. I want to thank everybody that is here from Clubhouse. Everybody's on Facebook and Instagram. Let me just double check here. I don't see any questions. Beautiful. And to be continued. We're in the middle of a thought. The thought will continue in tomorrow's class. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad, Chessed and Gevurah in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you, Tanya. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.